Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Miller and I'm going to talk about the case study, More Than Money. Looking at this case study and summarizing it in section 1, really what's happening within this district. So there's going to be anticipation of budget cuts resulting in the need to plan something different for the district. With these budget cuts, the district's been rich in providing equal and equitable access to all different things throughout the district. That co-curricular activities, after school programs, rich and rigorous instruction throughout the district, and opportunities to explore different learning avenues. So this has been a big part of the district. So the budget cuts are going to have tremendous impact on this district and what happens, and most importantly, how it impacts the teachers, staff, and most importantly, students. Throughout the district, there's been a lack of transparency with all stakeholders that have been involved throughout this process. So when we look at where this is occurring, where the events are going to be occurring, Dr. Bentley, the superintendent, has served on a steering committee to discuss solutions for the issues facing schools. This is going to start taking place in June school board meeting, and this is in the Meadow School District. Dr. Bentley is really involved and aware of the budget cuts that are going to be taking place and is starting to propose a new plan for the following school year. But with this plan, she's really working alone in this process. Meadow School Districts as a whole, their staff, students, teachers, quite a few community members, families, business, and organizations that this could impact. Section 2, looking at legal and ethical issues. So legal issues, really, loss of employment for a lot of these staff members of the plan that Dr. Bentley is going to be starting to put in place. There's going to be a little to no warning with this process, to where teachers, staff are going to have to find new positions, and more than likely it's not going to be within the district. There was some reading interventionists that were served through Title I funds, and also acts as the ESOL director and coordinator, which also is going to impact the ESOL students and minutes and obligations that are going to take place to serve those students in conjunction with general education. Ethical issues, like I talked about, not offering employees that are losing their position something else within the district. The decision making has been poor. There's been little to no access to technology. The after school programs are going to be cut, where it can keep students safe until family members are able to pick them up. And of course, the environments with HIPAA system, school safety officer, and school nurse. Those are positions that could be cut that are going to have some really big ethical issues on the school district. Section 3, synthesis of the problem. I'm going to read this piece out loud. Budget cuts have been forced Dr. Bentley to rework the certain budgets that are utilized, which threaten employment, certain staff members, access to equitable school environments, and necessary resources to upkeep the various initiatives that make the school district unique. And like I said at the very beginning, this school district was very unique in their system structures and systematic processes. Again, through this process, the community has been involved, and there's a lot of stakeholders that are very upset throughout this process. Looking at the facts in this, so looking at people, places, and programs. I'm going to start with programs, and I talked about this, the rigorous and diverse curriculum that's being used throughout the district. When we look at the Title I, the reading interventionist specialists, the ESOL directors, the students, which there's not a large portion of ESL students, but there still is students that are needing those services. And this is a public school setting, of course. K-12, and we're looking at the Meadow School District. Superintendent is Dr. Lisa Bentley. Board of Education is highly involved with this, as well as stakeholders, internal and external. That'd be administrators, staff, and students. Community stakeholders, that would be your external families, businesses, and organizations. I've talked about the place. This is more than likely in a rural school district. The board meeting that's going to take place the month of June in the Meadow School District. Section 5, review and prioritize information. This is when we start looking at, okay, what do we need to review and what do we need to prioritize to have the best impact on the district, community, and the stakeholders. So stakeholder impact, really looking at the damage. We're going to start to lose at least a minimum of 8 positions in the district that are super vital to the district's current structures. There could be a lot of staff in other positions that are being held that are going to move away because of this, whether or not there is people that are related or couples that are teaching in education together. There could be impact on other positions. Consultation, really the only people we've talked about with this process is board members. And it doesn't appear that all of them have been talked to, but there has been board members involved with this process. Critical stakeholders, the board members are super important in this process. District leadership teams, that consists of all the building and district administrators. There should be teacher representation in this process, along with possible student representation as well. Community needs to be involved with this process as well, because it does impact a big piece to all the organizations throughout the community. Other things that we need to think about throughout this to make the best informed decision is looking at scores to determine the current reality. Are these the best programs to be cutting? Is there other areas that could be cut to help alleviate some of these parts? For instance, is Title I and the ESL services the best place to start cutting positions? We need to start looking a little bit deeper into demographic information, what have been the current and past budgets, and then really looking at other school districts that are similar, going through this similar process. It's not just the Meadow School District going through this, so how can we look at other school districts within the state that are having similar situations with funding? Section 6, potential options and consequences. So we look at option 1. I have 2 different options. Look at option 1. No decisions are made. We really stick with what's going to be happening. Money is going to be outsourced to other resources. Dr. Bentley is going to have a plan to eliminate the positions. And the stakeholders aren't going to dig into anything. We're going to really go forth and cut these areas of staff employees throughout the district. Option 2, stakeholder involvement and decisions drive by data. I think this really, I'll get into what is the best option, not, but when we look at option 2, it provides stakeholder input, voice, and choice. The superintendent's able to be very transparent throughout this process. There could be options to look at additional funds where funds could be alleviated and leveraged in other areas and allocated to other areas, and what would be some better decisions and consequences based on funds in these areas. Things that could be taking place right away, allow time to look deeper at budgets and data. So looking at buildings across the district, looking at their budgets and how they're using their funds throughout the district. Looking at a district-wide budget to compare and identify areas of adjustment. Are budgets being pushed in different areas and different buildings for different needs and reasons? That would be something we need to look at with the committee that we would put together. Talk about stakeholders to present information and collect feedback. These stakeholders and the committee members would also present to the Board of Education on their findings and possible solutions to help the board and superintendent make the best informed decision for the district. Section 7, evaluation of the options. Like I said, option 1, plus and deltas. Option 2, plus and deltas. I'll talk about option 1 first. Option 1, pluses, jobs wouldn't be eliminated without a fair amount of time for those employees to search for opportunities. So we want to make sure we slow things down and look at that the positions wouldn't be cut. People would have opportunities to look for jobs, but eventually those jobs would be cut. And then the deltas in that area for option 1 would be shortage of funding, may cause problems in other areas that may have unplanned costs like the air, the cooling and heating systems, filtrations systems throughout the district. Option 2, this is probably the best option when we evaluate this, but all stakeholders are engaged in the decision-making process. Their voices are heard. This is one of the best options because it puts everybody at the table to discuss what's best for the district throughout this process. With saying that, I want to make sure, though, with deltas and having all stakeholders engaged in this process, there could be differences within what people think are important throughout the district. So it is important as a superintendent that you lead this committee through mission, vision, and what the goals and outcomes should look like, but making sure everyone's voice is put on the table. I talked a lot about allocating different funds in different areas possibly to help alleviate some of this pressure of cost throughout the district. Plan of implementation. When we look at the pathway, want to make sure that we collect that data that's important to what's happening in the district. Want to look at different funds, look at different districts that are similar in size. How do we help support this area? Establish those stakeholders to represent the whole entire district. Get board approval with the plan that we're going to propose with the committee. And then ultimately, what's the action plan for all stakeholders? So through this implementation process, there should be timelines and events and actions that take place that are met and communicated throughout the entire district, throughout the community, to make sure that the superintendent, the school district, is being as transparent as possible, but also to allow time for community members, all stakeholders, to come and visit with the school district on what's happening, why is this happening. So that needs to be make sure that's put in place. I talked about option 2 being the best option. Like I said, stakeholders are using data to drive this decision. So when we go through all those plans of implementation, what we need to do, option 2 is the best piece. It really puts together the vision, builds those relationships. There's transparency, there's honesty, and there's more buy-in throughout the district because there's more stakeholders involved in decision making. Not the decision making, but informing what those decisions and possible solutions should be throughout the district. Looking at eliminating positions and resources. During this case study, they really talked about those reading specialists being eliminated. So how could we train other elementary teachers to address MTSS structures in the science of reading? ESOL coordinator, that is also tied to that reading specialist position. How do we get more people involved with ESOL strategies to help support the learning within the classrooms and what's best for those bilingual students? Library positions, try to keep 1 to 2 of those positions to share out the responsibilities of books, getting in books and library duties and connected to those standards. Talk about our art. How can we embed those art opportunities into the classroom environment and connect them to multiple content areas? Continuing with the eliminated positions and resources and possible solutions. The Chromebooks, we could change that to different grade levels, of course, and making sure that only high school students take those home and not so much elementary, but high school, and making sure they're responsible, looking at technology and how do you help support digital citizenship and understand how you take care of devices. Collaborating with community and organizations and businesses to help provide support and costs for after-school programs. And in this area that was going to be cut. What organizations and businesses throughout the district could help support that. Local law enforcement